Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Planning and Zoning Committee here. First item to do is to okay the minutes of September 21st, 2020. Are there any additions, deletions, or corrections to these minutes? Hearing none, they'll stand approved as written. The first item to look at tonight is temporary ordinance A75 presented by the administration upon recommendation of the Planning Commission. An ordinance accepting the Planning Commission recommendation for the construction of an 11,952 square foot private gymnasium on parcel 02-12833 on Bailey Road and declaring an emergency. Mrs. Colavecchio, would you like to speak first?
Thank you, Mr. James. I'm just going to mention something very briefly and then turn this over to Fred. I wanted council to be aware that the applicant on this project, which has been approved by Planning Commission, has also inquired about a community reinvestment area tax exemption. We have sent the application to the applicant, and I just want council to know that quite possibly I'll be back here with a request for a CRA. Having said that, I'll turn it over to Fred.
Thanks, Di. Fred, you have the floor.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to share my screen here. All right. Again, this is a major site plan application. It's on parcel 02-12833. It's on approximately 36,000 square foot plot of land. The applicant is GBC Design. The property owner is Harbor Castings, and GBC Design is also the applicant representative for this file. The project basically is to the construction of an 11,952 square foot gymnasium, and it's in an E1 employment district. Let me get to one thing here. Okay. We look at the property. It is the little blue box rectangle at the south end of the E1 zoning district. You can see it is just south of Harbor Castings. It's a vacant lot. It was always part of that industrial building that was constructed probably in the early 50s. It is also adjacent to residential R5 zoning and close to an MU2 zoning district. Again, the project is for the construction of 11,952 square foot gymnasium. It will be primarily used for a basketball training facility. And as you can see, this is elevations and a floor plan of the building. The building includes parking. It meets parking requirements, over 30 parking spaces. It also has landscaping in the front of the building and landscaping in the back of the building. The building is built closer to the street, and one of the reasons for this is to shield it from adjacent residential homes that are to the rear of the building. Planning Commission action: the proposed gymnasium site plan in project file MSP-20-0040 complies with the Cuyahoga Falls General Development Code, Section 1113.11 Major Site Plan Standards. Therefore, the Planning Commission recommended approval with the following specific code compliance stipulations. 1, the facade and roof shall be similar in color and type to the Harbor Castings buildings. High quality 4-inch by 4-inch by 16-inch CMU. These are CMUs are modular units, brick type modular units shall be used. The metal wall material on the east side of the building shall also be of higher quality material than the other walls. 2, the rear parking lot shall be screened from adjacent residents with heavy 100% opacity as defined by Cuyahoga Falls General Development Code Table 1145-26. Landscape design, screening intensities. 3, the front of the building shall include medium intensity landscaping as defined in Cuyahoga Falls General Development Code Table 1145-26. Landscape design, screening intensities. 4, all exterior lighting, that's parking lot and wall lighting, must meet full cutoff and height regulations from stricter mixed-use center design, section 1143-08 lighting design section. 5, all mechanical equipment and refuse disposal shall meet table 1145-25 landscape design, use requiring other landscaping screening. 6, the stormwater management plan must meet section 1124.03 floodplain and stormwater regulations. 7, a new sidewalk shall be constructed adjacent to Bailey Road per section 1122-11. The pedestrian facility standards, not faculty standards, requires is an 8-foot wide sidewalk. And 8, must meet all regulations in chapter 1144 general district design and other development code site design standards. That completes my review of the project.
Thank you, Fred. Are there any members of the Planning Commission that would like to speak to this on right now? Okay, could you take the screen down again?
Sure.
Fred, so I can see?
Okay. All right.
Appreciate it. I'll ask again. I will tell you this, that it was very enthusiastically favored by the Planning Commission unanimously. It's kind of an exciting thing here when it comes to like a basketball training camp. I know that the gentleman that's going to be running it actually played basketball at Falls High along with my son, David Lane. And I will tell you that he is very, very knowledgeable in the game of basketball. He also personally trained LeBron James's sons. So he's very reputable. And again, the Planning Commission was enthusiastically in favor of this. And when it came to the lighting in the back where the parking lot is, it's going to be going straight down, so it won't be in the people on beach streets, backyards, and everything just came to a nice conclusion when it came to they're going to be good neighbors. The only concern I did have, Fred, there was a gentleman on Beach Street, Mr. Johnson, that voiced his concern about possibly increased traffic on Beach coming in the back way through Hybrid Castings to this parking lot. Has there been anything addressed on that?
Yeah, well, I spoke with him also. This parking lot doesn't go to Beach. The parking lot at Harbor Castings is not connected to this parking lot. So all egress and ingress is from Bailey Road.
Okay, very good. Are there anybody here from the developers of this?
Yes, I'm Gary Rouse with GBC Design. We're the site engineers and acting as the agent for this project. Well, everybody summed it up pretty well. So I know David and Chuck Lane are very excited about the project, and we have met all the zoning requirements and excited to get full site plans done and turned in for permitting approval.
Very good. I'll ask again, is there anybody from the Planning Commission that would like to speak?
Mr. Chair, just to kind of echo what you've already stated, I grew up with David, Matt, and their father, Chuck, and I know they're a great basketball family, and like you said, they have some really strong connections, and I'm looking forward to seeing what they do with the property, and I think there's going to be some great programming for our local residents.
I think there will be too, Mr. Miller. I appreciate that. Also, I don't think it's going to be very invasive or lead to any kind of traffic jams. It's going to be a basketball training camp. It's not going to be like 5:30 in the morning to 11 o'clock night gymnasium for people to just come and work out. they're going to have to be making appointments to come in and do the training. And the hours are going to be, very reasonable, where it's not going to be, making a problem around that Bailey Road curve there. And I'm excited for it. It's only a couple blocks away from my home also. And I think it's going to be a good addition to Ward 7 also. Okay, are there any questions or comments from the rail?
I have a question, Jerry.
Sure, Mr. Gorbach, go ahead.
I imagine we'll get this information if the CRA agreement is going to be applied for, but do we have an investment estimate at this time?
Fred?
They did not submit an investment estimate. Typically don't need it for the site plan, but maybe Mr. Rouse could answer that question.
I'm sorry, I did not hear the question.
Total investment dollars for the project. Are you aware at this time approximately what that may be?
No, I have no idea. We're just doing the site plans. I have no idea at all on that.
Okay. Like I said, I imagine we'll have that information with the CRA application. Thank you.
You're welcome.
You're welcome. Anybody else from council that would like to speak, or from the administration? Okay. I'm not quite sure if we have anybody from the public, or if there has been any emails. Has there been any emails or communications, Ms. Capriola? No? Okay then. Okay. Then I guess, seeing that there's no hands raised here, I will ask for a motion in a second to bring out temporary ordinance A75 for a vote, a vote next week.
So moved.
Second.
There's been a motion in a second. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Yeses are unanimous. We will bring out temporary ordinance A75 for a vote next week.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Rouse. Temporary ordinance A76, presented by the administration. An ordinance authorizing the Director of Public Service to enter into an option and ground lease agreement with Tower Co. 2013 LLC for the lease of property for the future construction of wireless communication facilities and equipment, and declaring an emergency. Fred, are you addressing this also?
Mr. James, Janet Ciapola, I will be starting off this discussion.
Okay, Janet, go ahead.
I'd first like to give council, I'd first like to recognize the two individuals from Tower Co. here, Jason Woodward, I see, and I believe Keith Shepherd's also the representatives from Tower Co. So as we give council background, in 2005, the city entered into a license agreement with T-Mobile for them to install their antennas and equipment on top of the Oak Park water tower. And over time, the water tower is no longer in use. It has become obsolete and structurally questionable. And the city has made application and received approval from the Ohio EPA to actually take down the water tower. So that left us with a license agreement that we have with T-Mobile, which goes through 2035. And in order to avoid any disruption of service and controversy over the license agreement, we entered into discussions with Tower Co. We have a good relationship with them. Some months ago, I brought an ordinance. They had requested permission for a cell tower on our Steele's Corner Road. We worked real well with them. They were very responsive and worked really well with the city. So our resolution was to have them install a cell tower in Oak Park. So various departments met. We had the electric department out, service, parks and rec, the law department, and Tower Co representatives to determine the best site for the future construction of this cell tower. Unfortunately, due to the existing infrastructure underneath the water tank, it was not possible for us to demolish the water tank and install a cell tower on the same site. It had too many complications and very dangerous. So we settled on a different location. And it's my understanding that this cell tower, which will then T-Mobile will move their equipment onto this cell tower to be constructed. The new cell tower will be quite smaller in circumference than the existing water tank, although it will be taller. And it's our intent to move forward with this project so that we can meet our legal obligations under the existing 2005 license agreement, maintain and improve services, phone services in Cuyahoga Falls, and then, of course, eliminate our deteriorating water.
Okay, thanks, Janet. Is there anybody that would like to speak after Janet? Okay, Mary?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like to thank Ms. Iatola. She and I met with a resident who lives near the park. She has put so many hours into this legislation, making sure that we are compliant with the legal aspect of it, the safety aspect of it, and all the aspects that are related to being the best for our residents. And so I really want to thank you, Ms. Iatola, for that. And that's it. I know everybody wants 5G, and it just, this is the world we live in. So making the plan be the best for people under the legal obligations, as I said, was a little bit tricky, but Ms. Iatola managed it very well. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, any other comments from the committee? Mr. Miller? Okay, how about from council? Anybody?
Yeah, Mr. James, it's Frank Stamps. I'm sure I missed, I'm sure she said where the new cell tower would be. I can't remember hearing it. Where is it? The new cell tower is going to be on the same location, or is there going to be a new location for this?
It's going to be in a new location, Councilman Stamps. Unfortunately, because of the existing infrastructure, and that's why we have all the departments meet with us underneath the ground. There's like water lines, electric lines. It wasn't safe to construct it in the same place. So it's going to be, and Jason, maybe you can help me. We're generally in the same location, but about 300 or 400 feet inward toward the park.
Yeah, so it would be about 300 feet further south, I believe, from the existing water tank. So it would be directly behind the water tank, closer to your utility building. Probably, I'm estimating probably at 10 to 15 feet off of the backside of your utility building, facing north. So really right in between you, the utility building and the water tank is where it would sit.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else? Okay, if not, I'll entertain a motion and a second to bring out temporary ordinance A76 for a vote next week.
So moved.
Second?
There's been a motion and a second. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Yeses are unanimous. We will bring out temporary ordinance A76 for a vote next week, and that concludes the Planning and Zoning Committee.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, it's 6:49, and I'd like to call the Finance Committee meeting to order. We have two pieces of legislation to discuss this evening. We'll begin with temporary ordinance A77, presented by the administration. An ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into an intergovernmental agreement with the Village of Silver Lake for the acquisition, installation, and operation of a consolidated computer-aided dispatch system to the Village of Silver Lake and declaring an emergency. Mr. Hoffman, I believe you're here to speak to this legislation.
That's correct. Thank you, Chairman Gorbach. If council will remember, about a month and a half ago, we brought a piece of legislation very similar to this one for us to contract with Boston Heights. I think they're the Village of Boston Heights, one of the two. But with Boston Heights, This is a pass-through contract with the Village of Silver Lake for expanded services under the new CAD system. We need to have a contract to be able to receive the money that Silver Lake would then pay for their portion of the CAD system. We will then pass through those dollars to Summit County, who has the master contract with the CAD system software vendor. In this case, that vendor is Tyler New World. They are the new software vendor for our CAD, and CAD is for computer-aided dispatch services. There is not a budget sheet attached to this piece of ordinance, due to the fact that we aren't spending any money on this ordinance. The expense was authorized and is part of the contract with the county that the city entered into some time ago, and we were implementing it. So this project, the CAD system, is on track to go live here in the month of November. At this time, I think they're still on track for that, but this piece will just be with the Village of Silver Lake to receive the dollars for their record management services that they are going to be implementing.
Thanks, Brian. And at this point, are we anticipating any future contracts? I would imagine we would hope that we would have future contracts.
When you say future contracts, you mean for services, or do you mean for other?
With any other entities joining in this group?
They're always willing to, the county's always willing to accept new dispatch entities into this contract and expand that. It just lessens the cost for all the members who are part of the CAD system in this. Currently, we dispatch for the Village of Silver Lake, Boston Heights, and Monroe Falls. So this, I believe this will complete what we need to contract with the current dispatch, current communities that we dispatch for. And so if there are any others, that would like to dispatch with us or use us as our dispatch center, we would be, we would talk to them at that point in time, I guess, if they were to approach us, but that we don't have any prospects at this point in time.
Okay, thanks. Are there any questions for Mr. Hoffman regarding this legislation from the Finance Committee? Anything from anyone at the, oh, I'm sorry, Jeff, did you have your hand up?
Yeah. What was it, 3 or 4 years ago when we were talking about meeting with Stowe and Talmadge and getting it hooked up? Whatever happened with that? Is that still going on or not?
It's my understanding they have their own group, but maybe Mr. Hoffman can elaborate on that.
Yeah, at this point in time, we are still in discussions about joining a larger entity or putting together an entity, Council of Governments. And nothing has been finalized. We're still kind of discussing that COG situation.
All set, Jeff?
Yep, thanks, Tim.
Okay, thanks. Anybody else from the rail? There's some faces unfamiliar to me on the meeting tonight. Were there any comments from anyone else attending the meeting regarding this? No? Was there anything, Ms. Capriolo, from that you received from any residents?
No, Mr. Chairman, but there are some minutes that need approved.
For what date?
September 21 and October 5.
I see it here. Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Any other comments regarding temporary ordinance A77? Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve for a vote temporary ordinance A77?
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Motion passes. We'll vote on temporary ordinance A77 next week. At this time, I'd like to approve the minutes from September 21st and October 5th. Are there any corrections or additions or comments regarding those sets of minutes? Hearing none, they'll stand approved as read. Thank you, Ms. Capriolo. The next ordinance is the budget ordinance. temporary ordinance A78. And if it looks like I'm in a mess over here, I am. I had to race to work to do this meeting because my stuff at home wasn't working. So I got it. Temporary ordinance A78 presented by the administration. An ordinance establishing annual appropriations of money for the current expenses, capital expenditures, and other expenses of the city of Congo Falls for the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2021, and declaring an emergency. And this piece of legislation we'll continue discussing for the next 4 to 5 weeks as necessary. Those were the meetings that I had called last week for those that are new to the budget approval process. So keep this legislation handy, at least through the first week of December. And with that, Mr. Hoffman, would you like to, you typically like to begin with an overview of what you're seeing this year and going into next year. And if there's any other comments from any other members of the administration, that would be great.
Okay, thank you, Chairman Gorbach. Yeah, this council, hopefully, I think you all received your budget books on Friday. I wanted to just give you one piece of information inside the budget book in the front pocket. Hopefully you all received the department highlights sheet for this week. We will have subsequent ones coming out later this week and then into the week after and the week after. Regarding the highlight sheet as we did last year, there was also a report on staffing included in that front pocket as well. That's our yearly staffing report that we send to council. With that, I believe the mayor had a couple of comments he would like to make in regards to the budget.
Sure, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I'll give a brief overview and make some comments on 2020 and also 2021. So, Mr. Chairman, Council, as we begin our budget discussions, I want to offer a brief review of what we dealt with in 2020 and also going into next year. But what a difficult year this has been. It's times like this that we're thankful for our conservative budgeting and grateful to have a fund balance to get us through a rainy day, because it's been raining. We've been frugal and resilient and will continue to weather the storm well. Doing more with less has become the norm. So be honest, in January of this year, how many people in this meeting even heard of Zoom, let alone used it before? Probably not too many. How many knew who the Ohio Health Director was before Dr. Amy Acton became a household name? Probably not too many. How many would have believed if I told you that Wasp Music Center would go from 500,000 patrons to 0? How many would have believed that every bar and bistro would go dark? Every restaurant, fitness center, movie theater, bowling alley, barbershop, daycare, beauty salon would all be forced to shut down. The good news is that we have proven our tenacity as citizens and as a city, and our ability to adapt has been remarkable. My staff, our employees, and especially the safety forces have really stepped it up this year, and I'm extremely proud of all of them. So even with a lot of unknowns, there are many bright spots. First off, the litmus test I like to use is our housing market, and it is red hot. With near record low interest rates coupled with high demand and low inventory, it's produced a very strong seller's market. I receive the local housing numbers each month, and for September, it was unbelievable. For the zip code 44221, the median days on the market was 4. There was only one zip code in the whole county that was lower than 4. And also the Congo Falls, the selling price versus asking price was over 100%. So as people are asking very top dollar for their homes, they're still selling. The average is over 100% of the asking price. Throughout the pandemic, private development in the city has not stopped. We have new shops, entertainment venues, and restaurants. They all continue to open. We've created a place where people want to live, work, and play. And proof of that, we're moving forward with the relocation of the Summit DD Board headquarters, and other developments such as Menards and Portage Crossing are still performing well. Continued investment by housing developers shows that Cuyahoga Falls is a place where people want to live. With all the good things going on, we must not be blind that we are in a fragile economy. Nationwide and state unemployment is still high. And although the unemployment rate of the city is higher than it was this time last year, we are doing better than many surrounding cities. In fact, Cuyahoga Falls ranked third in both August and September for the lowest unemployment rate in the state of Ohio for cities 50,000 or greater. Both months we were third lowest. As you'll see in the budget, some revenues are down, but Moody Investor Services a couple of weeks back confirmed our AA2 rating, citing healthy financial position supported by strong management and conservative budget assumptions. So that was a very long meeting we had with them, and it went very well. With the help of my cabinet, department heads and managers, and all the city employees, I present the 2021 budget. Items in the capital budget will be discussed in more detail in the coming weeks, but I'll touch on a few right now. The opening of Front Street, as you probably know, has been a success, but we must build on that success by highlighting our greatest natural resource, the Cuyahoga River. In the 2021 budget, there's money budgeted to look at various options to incorporate the river with the boardwalk, with Riverfront Parkway to realize the fullest potential of that area. Paving roads, I know this is important to everyone. As you recall, historically, the paving budget in Cuyahoga Falls was always $1.5 million year after year after year. In 2015, we increased the paving budget from $1.5 million to $2 million. Then in 2019, we increased that amount to $2.25 million. Then in 2020, it was increased to $2.75 million. Well, next year in 2021, we have a budget of $3 million for asphalt paving and $500,000 for concrete street repair. As far as vehicles go, studies have shown that over time, electric vehicles will save money, and it makes sense that the city looks for ways to incorporate electric vehicles into its fleet. So for 2021, we're starting with 4 hybrid Ford Explorer police SUVs, and those have an estimated fuel savings of $3,509 per vehicle per year, just being a hybrid. And as you may have read, we plan to purchase a Lordstown Motors all-electric truck with a total overall savings over 5 years of over $19,000 compared to a comparable Ford F-150. You'll see $350,000 in the budget for improvements to convert to the much safer quad gates at the Bailey Road Railroad crossing. The safety improvement will also qualify that site as a silent crossing per the Federal Rail Commission. And finally, we really relied on the NECO department this year with the pandemic, with their outreach communications to keep the public safe and all the things that have changed throughout this process. So they've done a great job. I want to thank Brian Hoffman and the finance team, those who are on the call and those that are not, for their tireless work. And thank you to City Council for your support through these unprecedented times. We will survive and we will thrive. So thank you very much, Mr. Chair. That's a few of the highlights.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A lot of highlights in there, especially with the difficult year. I think I've said it before. Our job, in a sense, is relatively simple. We collect revenues from various governmental sources, federal, state, from our own residents. We convert those monies to services to the residents. And our residents expect a high level of service. And I think we maintained that this year. The mayor mentioned so many highlights, but we did experience some shortfalls in revenues that was just, as when Blossom, the admissions tax is going to go, when they have 0 shows, there's not much a city can do to combat that. We're just going to have to absorb that. And I think we've done it well. And I think we've maintained our level of services that our residents expect. And, as Mr. Hoffman and the mayor thank the employees of the city, I thank all of you also. It's amazing with what's going on. And our employees, they experience what all of us experience. You get into some doldrums, you get sad and anxious, and with everything going on with this stuff, it's hard. It's hard on people, and our folks showed up and worked hard and are continuing to do so. So thank you for the comments, Mr. Mayor and Mr. Hoffman. I'm going to actually go back to you, Brian. Did you have any other overall comments at this point?
Thank you, Chairman. I do have some. And I don't know if you want to open it up to anyone else on council who may want to ask comments or have comments at this time too. And then I could make my comments if there's none, and then we can get into the budget departments. Does that sound feasible?
Wonderful idea. I'll start as I typically do with these budget meetings. It's almost a committee as the whole. I'll ask the individuals on the finance committee first if they have any comments, but please don't be shy if you don't think I see you or speak up. And that's pretty much how I like to handle it, all inclusive. So does anybody have any comments, maybe overall, with respect to the budget at this point? And if you want to wait till we get into specifics with each department, that's fine as well. Ms. Nichols-Rhodes, I see your hand up. I'm looking at Finance Committee folks and I'm not seeing anything. So go ahead, Ms. Nichols-Rhodes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I wanted to make a statement that I would like to thank Mayor Walters and the administration for continuing their commitment to sustainability and green initiatives and demonstrating evidence of such in the 2021 budget. Councilman at Large Russ Balthus and I have been fortunate enough to serve on the Green Initiatives Committee with city leaders. The committee serves as an advisory committee, putting a green lens to actions considered by the city. Thus far, our city has built the fire station and the police training stations to tremendous energy efficiency standards, created new proactive wastewater code standards in building. We're currently replacing our 6,000 or so streetlights to have LED bulbs to save money, energy, and maintenance. There's been a lot of work and research done to determine whether solar would be beneficial to power the city buildings and go sustainable. Did such a study and thinks that we would save money and benefit greatly from considering a power project agreement for up to 1 megawatt of solar power for municipal buildings. The next steps there are to create a request for proposal and RFP, which I hope will happen in 2021. We have NOPEC rebates that are being matched by other grants and earmarked tentatively for electric vehicle charging stations downtown, LED lighting on city property, and increased energy efficiency through new HVAC. A budget indicates priorities, and I think what we see in the 2021 budget is a commitment to lowering costs to the taxpayers while increasing energy efficiency by adding the 4 hybrid cars to our police fleet, as has been done and proven successful in other communities, including Talmadge. Also, in addition to reducing operating and maintenance costs to our residents, we will be supporting Ohio workers and jobs by purchasing the Endurance electric truck from Lordstown Motors. Mayor Walters and his administration have worked hand in hand with myself and several other council members to champion green initiatives and to make the city of Cuyahoga Falls a leader in saving taxpayer dollars while being responsible stewards of our planet and being accountable to future generations. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Nichols-Rhodes. Are there any other comments at this time from any member of council? No? Okay. Mr. Hoffman?
I thought I saw Mr. Brillhart's hand.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Mr. Brillhart. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, I just wanted to echo what the mayor and Ms. Nichols-Rhodes said. Particularly, I'm really into vehicles a lot, and I think that I'm just very, very pleased we're going to go with the hybrid police cars. They've been very successfully used in a lot of large cities in the United States, and they're just a fantastic vehicle. And also the electric truck. I think the electric vehicles are really the wave of the future, and I'm so happy that Cuyahoga Falls is going to be a leader in that. Thank you.
Sure, thank you. Mr. Hoffman, with your pair of eyes, I'm going to ask again if there's any comments at this time. Okay, thank you. Brian, go ahead.
All right, thank you, Chairman Gorbach. In this 2021 budget, we presented it in the same manner as we have in previous years. And our general fund, you will see a projected cash balance of a little over $11 million. And that strong cash balance has been a result, I believe, of the mayor's leadership, the administration, our department heads, and all the employees here at the city of Cuyahoga Falls to help try to save money through 2020 in this financial crisis. It's also been a huge help to have a CARES Act stimulus to help plug holes where we can. As far as debt goes in this city, in this budget, we have in here to increase notes for the Sword Trail TIF development of about $2.2 million. Even with that, which has a corresponding revenue source to pay back that debt, by the end of 2021, we will have only increased our total debt by a little over $100,000 for the city. So we're continuing to maintain a very low debt burden on this city. We are in the last year of union contracts. So in this budget, you will not see an increase to wages in any one line item. And also healthcare benefits are flat for 2021 budget. On the income tax side, which is our #1 major revenue source, the city is holding its own. As I mentioned last week, we are doing better than most when it comes to income tax collections and our income tax, our tax base, if you will. It has had an impact on that. You will see a lower projected income tax number than we even had projected for 2020 in 2019's budget for 2020. So we are still working through that. We are going to be using some CARES Act dollars to help plug that hole into 2021 and still maintain a high cash balance in our general fund. That's well over what Moody's Investor Services would like to see to maintain our credit rating. So I think that's one of the reasons why they reaffirmed our AA2 rating. As the mayor said, we have conservative budget practices, which are viewed very highly for the credit rating. We are consistently budgeting revenues a little bit lower than we normally see, and we also consistently budget the expenses a little higher than what generally come in. Those come in a little bit lower due to turnover from employees, as well as just department heads and employees not spending all of their discretionary line items each year. As I mentioned, that fund balance at the end of 2021 is scheduled to be just $8,659,591 for the exact figure. That's about 25% of what our corresponding revenues would be, which is over that 15% threshold to maintain our bond rating. In the general fund and in other funds as well, you will see they are highly dependent from an expense perspective on personal services. Approximately 75% of the expense is personal services, people to help carry out those services that you, Chairman Gorbach, mentioned are a very high level of service in my mind as well. So that's good. The mayor mentioned the capital projects fund and the types of things that we're trying to do this year, as well as Ms. Nichols Roads. And I think that that leadership is showing through in this budget. And we will talk about in future weeks. We're doing some things on the Park and Rec side as well. And so we are doing what we can, especially on the Park and Rec side through this COVID crisis and maintaining that level of service as well that I'm sure we will talk about here in the next couple weeks. So with that, that's all I have on the opening statement side from a general perspective. I'd be happy to answer any questions that anyone may have now, and then like I said, we can get into the actual departments if you'd like.
Very good. Are there any questions at this point from members of the Finance Committee and or the rail? Okay. All right, so this is typically then from this point forward is where we'll start talking about the budget. we'll go right into what our budget schedule says, speak about the departments listed there. As Mr. Hoffman indicated, we received with the budget, the department highlights for only the departments we're discussing this evening. You'll receive a similar document for the departments for the rest of the budget schedule. They give a lot of good information and differences for this year versus last year. What I encourage everyone to do is when you get this document, any questions you have during the week, please feel free to contact Mr. Hoffman. It might be easier. Well, I guess I'll ask you, Mr. Hoffman, is it easier for people to go through you? For example, if they have a question about the law department budget, what's preferable for you, to contact you or to contact Ms. Ciatola in that example?
I'd be happy to take any questions that any council members would have. And then I think if you send it to me, we'd be happy to answer it and make sure we're answering it properly. And then what we can do is turn that around to all council members. If that's what you think that would work out for you.
I think it might be easier. I just want to make sure that no one's question gets, someone thought someone else was going to answer it. And I'm of course talking about in future sessions, if anyone has any questions about upcoming departments. From what Mr. Hoffman just said, shoot those to him. He'll get those to the department heads. Not saying you can't call the department heads or council members. You can talk to whoever you want to talk to. But in order for everyone to have the benefit of the answers prior to when we discuss it, we'll just make the meeting that much easier and no one will feel left behind maybe a question they didn't think to ask. Okay, with that, we always start off with the easy departments, I say, just because there's typically not a lot of change from year to year with these departments. Council, page 55, and you're welcome to look in the council sheet or, there you go, Mr. Hoffman.
Yeah, Chairman, I do have all the pages set up so that we can share. And
okay,
so
excellent.
everyone on the meeting will be able to see, and I can scroll through this and I will follow your lead on that if you'd like, or I can.
Okay. All right, I think that's good. I was wondering how this, Brian and I talked a little bit about how best to do this via Zoom, and it almost may work a little slicker instead of everybody rifling through their books. If you have it right there, this will be easy. So you've got this on the screen. We can have the budget department highlights page in front of us, and I think that'll be pretty slick. So go ahead if you want to. Again, I don't want you to have to read what you've already written. So you have that budget sheet there. It's very similar to last year. We have the personal services decrease, and you explain why. In my mind, there's really not much. I shouldn't say that. I don't have any questions about this particular budget, and I can't see everybody right now. So if anybody has a question, regardless if you're on the committee or not, please speak up. Okay, nothing for city council. Let's go to the mayor's office. And again, not much of a change. We're seeing, well, there isn't much. I don't want to say there's not much going on in the mayor's office, Mayor. There's a lot going on in the mayor's office, but not much change in the budgetary figures. Again, are there any questions for Mr. Hoffman with respect to the mayor's office budget?
Oh, Mr. Chair, since we're on my office, it's not really about my office, but there's one thing I forgot to mention if I could.
Yeah.
All along when this CARES Act money was coming down from the federal government, it sounded like a great thing. We were very grateful. They actually received a bonus because Summit County is over 500,000 people. They got direct funding as well. So we got a bonus from them. Other people in other counties would not get. The problem was the money was allocated from the state, the county, down to us, but they said we couldn't spend it. We were not allowed to spend it unless it was an expenditure that was not previously budgeted due to COVID. So if we hired another 20 police officers and firefighters, we could use that money to fund them. But we didn't hire anyone additional. We didn't buy $5 million worth of masks and PPE. So up until just recently, they said we couldn't spend it. All the calls that I had to Senator Portman, Brown, Congressman Ryan, and David Joyce, and everyone that we could reach out to and said, you need to fix this with the federal treasury. And not too long ago, they finally changed the restrictions, so we're allowed to use that money for police and fire salaries, which is what we wanted to do all along. So I had to throw that in because there was a big battle going on behind the scenes. We were very grateful for the money, but they told us we couldn't spend it. So it all worked out. So thanks to Brian and everyone that made all those phone calls.
I have a feeling you made more than one phone call to each of the individuals you have mentioned, Mayor. But yeah, no, I don't know that there was much press on that. And, you know, talk about spend it or you're going to lose it, but you can't hire people that you can't then afford to pay in subsequent years, for Pete's sake. So that's great that was changed, and we can use it for our current employees. If that was your way of asking for a raise in this budget, it didn't work.
No.
All right, no questions on the mayor's office. Let's go to the mayor's court. Now, we did see a decrease in revenue, or we're seeing a decrease in revenue, Mr. Hoffman, in the mayor's court in 2020. I think it's fairly easy to explain, and I'll say what I think it is, and you tell me if I'm wrong. But I would say from March to April, when COVID was really starting to get going, we simply were not stopping cars or making as many stops. First of all, there was less cars on the road with the businesses being closed and people staying inside as much as possible. And to minimize the interaction with all the uncertainty at that time, I think we made less stops unless there was, certainly a dangerous situation that we needed to. And I have no problem with that. I think that was the proper way to proceed. Is that what we were seeing in this budget with the mayor's court?
On the revenue side, yes. What we did see was a decrease in the number of cases that have gone to the mayor's court. And so in 2020, that's a big reason. And then in 2021, we are budgeting for a rebound. And we have seen a rebound in the last several months with caseloads at the mayor's court. So in 2021, we will see revenue that we'll get. We are projecting, I think, on a conservative basis, not to quite hit the expenses side on that because we just don't have. But I think if we get up to our normal caseload numbers, we will see revenues and expenses match on that side.
Okay, and that's not reflected on this sheet. This sheet is showing expenditures, but I just wanted to make sure we discuss the revenue portion of the mayor's court. Are there any questions regarding the mayor's court for Mr. Hoffman? No? Okay. Finance. You probably know this department better than most, I would imagine, Mr. Hoffman. Are there any questions regarding the finance department? And I would say, I know this is being broadcast. The lack of questions and or comments during the budget process isn't because the council members aren't interested. It's because, like I said earlier, these departments specifically do not change a lot. It's mostly salaries with a little bit of other monies, but they don't change a lot. And with the summaries that the finance department prepares, along with Mr. Hoffman's leadership, are detailed to the point that any questions have been answered. So to those that are watching, please don't think that we're not interested in the budget. We certainly are. I'll ask again, though, if there's any questions or comments regarding the finance department. Nope. Okay. Service director.
Mr. Gorbach, just real quick, I don't mean to interrupt, but in the finance department, I put in here a page, as you can see on my screen share, portion for the general administration department, if you will, within the general fund. It's listed under report 21 at the very top. I have it here just to kind of, just as a talking point, I guess. So, because we put it into the finance section of this, doesn't really fit anywhere else, if you will. But I can just make a couple quick comments on that just so everybody knows, and then we can move on.
Please.
This department is mostly there for any sort of activity that doesn't fit in another department within the general fund. Most of the expense you see here are either fees that go to the health department for their services, or fees that come out for the fiscal office that maintain our property tax collections. That's the top portion of this other operations line item. Then the transfers out section of it, the $642,000.
Hey, Brian, I don't. Oh. My computer, but I'm not hearing you. Am I the only one freezing up here?
Yeah, you're froze. Your screen's froze.
Somebody talk to me.
Your screen froze.
Can everybody else hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. See if Mr. Gorbach, give him a minute here to see if we can.
I think it's screen.
Oh, he popped out.
Scott. I think we lost him.
Maybe he hung up and tried to do it again. He said he's at his work because his home wasn't working.
Yeah.
So he went to. He went to his work.
Done. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we got you back, yes.
All right. I don't know what happened. Lost connection. I'm going to listen to the recording to hear what everybody said about me while I was gone. All right. I'm sorry about that. So you were talking about the general fund, basically a miscellaneous fund that doesn't really fit anywhere else.
Yes.
Are you done?
I'm sorry.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, the general administration we put in here as a separate page that for expenses that don't fit into any of the other departments. Primarily, it is expenses to the Summit County Fiscal Office for income or property tax collections. There are fees in here for the Summit County Health Department, and then what I was going to make mention of was the transfers outline item. That $642,000 is in here to the debt service fund to pay for the debt, help pay for debt that we have in the city. So just wanted to make mention of that as we scroll through here. So.
Very good. Thank you. Service Director. Again, nothing remarkable on this one. Are there any questions for Brian regarding the Service Director? The budget. We have the Service Director here, I imagine. Are there any questions for him? No? Okay. Engineering. Okay, I will make a comment on engineering. Tony, I can't see you. I think I saw you earlier. Are you still here?
Yep, I'm here.
Hey, I just wanted to say, I think they did a great job on the Steele's Corners from State Road to Northampton. It looked like they were doing a little bit of cleanup work today, but I don't know what the time frame on that was, but I think they knocked it out pretty well and kept traffic moving on that road. I mean, what's your take?
Yeah, we're really pleased with the project, Chairman. We originally thought it was going to be done around the end of November, and
Right.
here we are, beginning of November, and we're basically done. We have a couple small things to do and a couple small things to do next year, but for all intents and purposes, the road's done.
Yeah, they had it ground, and I think the first layer put on in a week almost. It was amazing. So, I mean,
thank you.
What a
Appreciate
change.
that.
I was building you up in case there was any tough questions for you coming up.
Appreciate that too.
Does anybody have any questions regarding the budget or anything else for Tony at this time? Nope. Okay. Scroll us to law. Janet, how was your first budget experience as law director, having to work directly with Mr. Hoffman on this document?
I learned a lot.
Are there any questions regarding the law department's budget? Okay, civil service. For any council member that doesn't know civil service, we have 3 commission members on the Civil Service Commission, and their job is to do the testing, for like police department, fire department, electric department that needs to take the civil service tests. It's kind of tough to budget because, I mean, in a way, sometimes we try to find out what tests we may need in the future, but it's not always set in stone. But the budget still remains, with maybe an anomaly here or there, pretty steady. Any questions regarding this fund?
Who are they now? Steve Amos? Is he still on?
Is that a side conversation or was that a question?
Hey, Tim,
Yep.
who are the 3 members now, by the way?
You know what? I don't know. Commission member 1, 2, and 3, according to the document.
Well, okay, she was one of those on there.
Who are the members?
I'm sorry, Chairman. Julie Cooper is here representing Civil Service.
Oh, okay. I was on the Civil Service Commission for a couple years, Ms. Cooper, and I can't see you. Hopefully you're smiling because you enjoy being on the commission, but do you have anything to say with respect to your budget?
No, it's pretty much the same.
Yeah. How long have you been on the, you see, you show up to the meetings and people talk to you. How long have you been a commission member?
I think this is starting my 3rd year.
Oh, excellent. Okay.
January starts my 3rd year.
Very good. Well, thank you for serving. We appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. If there's no more questions, or you know what, we have human resources, right? Sorry, I was looking at your highlight sheet and I didn't get to that back page. I know Ms. Steiner is dying to talk. You don't have to, but I appreciate everybody coming. Even if we don't ask you questions about your department, we appreciate you running them for sure. Are there any questions for Human Resources? And then along with that, the self-insurance and the workers' compensation. Brian, for the new members of council, do you want to just explain the self-insurance? Or Vicky, you're welcome to do so as well. Whoever would like to just explain the why we have the self-insurance fund and the workers' compensation fund and how you budget for it.
Brian, do you want to start off?
I'd be happy to, yeah. So the city of Cuyahoga Falls is self-insured on medical, dental, and other benefit claims. We do that because it saves the city money. And so the way this works is that we build a budget based upon what we think we're going to spend every year in claims activity. And just like full service insurance companies, we do it very similarly. And that there's all kinds of data that we plug in to get to a good number on what we're going to spend in claims. So when an employee who is covered under our health insurance goes to a doctor or has a medical procedure done and they submit a claim, we pay it out from the city's perspective. And then we use a third-party administrator to administer that. So we use, currently we have Medical Mutual as our third-party administrator who administers our medical claims. To pay those claims, we have to charge our departments. So we take it from one hand and we put it into the other hand. And we charge our departments, general fund included, with other enterprise funds, water, sewer, and electric, based on a premium, just like you'd pay a premium for your car insurance and homeowners insurance. We charge ourselves a premium per pay, and we also charge employees a portion of that premium. So we have ours benefits premium schedule set up that way based upon which plan or which level of service that the employee would like to choose when it comes to a health insurance plan. We have 3 of them this year. We have a high deductible plan, we have a middle of the road plan, and then we have an HMO style plan. And then that middle of the road, I guess consider a PPO style plan. So we put that money into this fund. That's the revenues, is basically premium payments. And then we have expenses coming out of this fund based on claims activity that we see throughout the year. So that's how that works.
Thanks, Brian. And I would guess that we are seeing, and we're seeing September 30th numbers, I realize, but I'm still going to guess that these numbers for 2020 are going to be below budget, given again, back to the COVID when or elective surgeries, I'm not sure the right term to say, weren't allowed to happen. Less people were going to the doctors for those types of procedures, and likely going to the doctors less, maybe just for preventative, because of what's been going on. Is that what you're thinking we're going to see at the end of 2020?
Yes, that is exactly right. If you look at these cash balances here at the bottom of the shared screen, they have gone up a little bit each year. And that would indicate is that premiums going into this fund have exceeded the claims activity or expenses out of this fund. There is a way that we can deal with that, and say if you're being overcharged for your premiums going into this fund, we will give what we consider a premium holiday to the employees as well as the funds that paid, or the city other hand that paid into this fund. This year, we are going to give 2 premium holidays in the month of December. So we're going to see some savings there. But even with those 2 premium holidays, we are still anticipating a little bit of an increase to the cash balance of this fund. And I know it's not shown on there, but I believe we're going to be somewhere in the in the area of about $4.5 million cash balance. And we would use that cash balance to pay for a year in which the expenses outpace the premiums that we have coming into this fund. And so, we don't want to give it all back in the way of premium holidays. We need to be prudent in the way we do that. But if we find ourselves in that situation, that's a mechanism. To answer your question, yes, we have seen in 2020, we did see the activity level decrease substantially, and it hasn't completely come back at this point in time, but we have started to see some activity that where those surgeries, those types of medical procedures are coming back. And so we've kept our premiums flat for 2021 with the anticipation that we will start to see those claims come back in 2021.
Thank you. Appreciate that. I like to hear about the premium holiday. I'm glad that you've decided to do that. I mean, there's nothing that says you have to do it. And I'm glad you've decided to do that. I'm sure the employees appreciate that. Are there any questions for Brian regarding how the self-insurance fund works?
I have a question, Mr.
Yeah.
Chair.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm just looking at the refunds line, and that just seems to be quite different from year to year.
Yep. The refunds line item is a function of a contract that we started in 2017, 2018 with our CVS Caremark prescription drug contract. The way that prescription drug contract is working is that there's a rebate program associated with it, and the rebates will come back to the city, and we put them into this refunds line item, and those refunds have a substantial impact over time.
Are there any other questions? Quick overview on the workers' compensation fund.
So the workers' compensation fund is very similar to the way the self-insurance fund works. We just have to pay our third-party administrator is the Ohio Bureau of Workers' Compensation. We pay a premium to the Bureau, and then they pay out or they distribute the claims. In the 2021 budget, you won't see very many revenues here, and that is because the Bureau of Workers' Compensation over the last year, 2 years, they've been giving money back. So they've been essentially giving us back premium holidays because they've collected too much. And so we've gotten a couple of those premium holidays from the Bureau of Workers' Compensation. Mm-hmm. And so we aren't contributing in the way of premiums into this fund from our general fund, our enterprise fund. So that's why you don't see the revenues as high. We do still pay a premium to the Bureau, which is why you see this $381,000 figure there as a estimate of what that premium might be for our city in 2021.
Very good. Are there any questions regarding the workers' compensation fund? Okay, I think that does. You probably just got a rebate check. Did you get it this week or last week?
Got it last week.
Yeah, I thought so. Okay, very good. Thank you. Again, if there's, speaking to council, if there's any questions that you think of about departments that we've already talked about, we'll always ask if there's any open issues from the previous week. So don't think that you can't talk about something from before. Certainly we can. And I think that's all I have regarding talking about the budget. Again, keep this with you for the next 4 weeks, as exciting as that sounds. Again, I do want to thank you again, Brian, and your team and the entire administration for all the work you put in. This isn't a 2-week project putting the budget together. I know it's a long project, and all the department heads are involved, and they rely on their senior staff to help them craft the budget. And I know you do it in a way that's extremely mindful to ensuring that we provide the highest level of services each year that we can, and add on to those services where we're able to for the citizens of Congo Falls. So I think that we're fortunate to have the budget presented to us, especially in November. When I was on council, it was always December. We didn't get it until then, and we're talking about it at the end of the year and rushing to pass it before the beginning of the year. So it's much appreciated to have it now. And again, thank you for your attention to detail and to helping us with your summaries. I appreciate it.
All right, thank you for the comments, Mr. Gorbach. I do want to recognize 2 members of my team who are on here, Scott Fitzsimmons and Paul Novelli, our city treasurer and deputy director of finance. You couldn't do it without a great team in the finance department. They do so much work on this, and nights and weekends, and putting this stuff together, and a lot of the communication with department heads. And I know we couldn't get this book out, especially in the format that we have it in, without those 2 people, as well as others in finance, and so they do a fantastic job.
Thanks, guys. That concludes the Finance Committee meeting. Thank you very much.
Good evening. It is 7:46, and I will call the Public Affairs Committee to order. I will take a brief pause and will not be offended if anyone would like to leave that was just here for the Finance Committee meeting. I'm looking at you, Scott and Paul. You guys have been working a lot, but you're welcome to stay as well, but you're welcome to go. Don't. So thank you. I'll let everybody jump out there. Very good. Tonight we have a few things we'd like to do. The first thing I'd like to do is consider the minutes, or approve the minutes from October 19th, 2020. Are there any comments or additions to those minutes? Hearing none, those minutes will be approved as submitted. We have one piece of legislation to discuss this evening, temporary ordinance A79 presented by the administration, an ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into a license agreement with the Downtown Cuyahoga Falls Partnership for the purpose of constructing and maintaining signage for a historical walking trail in downtown Cuyahoga Falls and declaring an emergency. So I'd like to start by turning it over to Diana Colavecchio.
Thank you, Mr. Balthus. Tonight, we're going to hear from Kaylee Piper about this grant application. And Kaylee, thank you for being patient and staying with us this evening. Kaylee, as you know, is the new executive director of the Downtown Partnership. Prior to Abby Paskey resigning, she had actually put into work this very important project. I think that it's timely. We had created a historic district in the downtown, but we had not done really anything to really recognize that it is a historic district. There's no signage yet. And so this project was spearheaded by the partnership under Abby's guidance previously. And we're very excited about it. It has some unique technology built into it, and I hope you all like it. It really consists of about 7 markers that will appear downtown. I previously sent you all of you to council. I sent you a PDF file that showed you what these markers are going to look like, what they'll be made out of, and Kaylee can talk to you more about that. But before I turn it over to her, here's what I wanted to tell you about Kaylee. Kaylee was selected as the new executive director out of some 60 applications. Mary Spoggy and I sat on the search committee for the partnership, along with about 6 other people from the partnership. And she survived 2 rounds of grueling interviews, and then she had to put on a presentation with a PowerPoint, and it was quite the process. So we have selected what we think is a very fine applicant with a wonderful resume of experience. And I know you've met her before, but I don't think anybody here really had known until just now how competitive that selection process was. So I want you to know Kaylee comes well received by us in the CD department, because as you know, we work very closely with the Downtown Partnership. And so we're very happy to have someone of her qualifications and experience. So with that, I'll turn it over to her and she can tell you more about this project.
Thank you so much, Diana. That was
quite a builder there, so let's see how I can live up to it. So thank you, good evening, for this opportunity to present our Downtown Congo Falls History Trail Initiative. There are many people to thank for getting this project this far. Diana is one, of course. But I do want to say thank you tonight to Mary Nichols Rhodes for the partnership's connection to the Congo Falls Historical Society, which without this collaboration, the project would not move forward. So I have here just some bullets of some information to give you some background and some plans on moving forward. The History Trail will be located at various points downtown. It is made up of 7 total signs that will take participants back in time to learn about the first settlers, the growing economy, river history, and much more. We have recently been approved to move forward by the Design and Historic Review Board. As far as economic impact, COVID would influence the grand open ribbon cutting as we cannot hold a large gathering, but we do estimate an average of 50 people per month, 600 per year, will passively find and enjoy the History Trail. We also intend to host quarterly walking tours in which we focus on or incorporate the trail, bringing another 200 plus people per year downtown. We hope this trail will draw new demographics downtown to push more economic impact to the surrounding businesses. The grand opening will be marketed via social media and will encourage residents and visitors downtown to walk the trail. Once gatherings of over 10 is allowed by the Summit County Health Department, we will host a ribbon cutting. Since this trail is outside, the trail is a COVID-friendly activity to do as a family. The History Trail will be marked on the Downtown Congo Falls walking map, which is available to guests at the Sheraton Suites, City Hall, and in stores downtown. This trail will be accessible for young children through senior citizens and will contain engaging visuals as well as easy to read historic information. As a free and semi-permanent exhibit, it will be accessible for people of all incomes. The partnership has applied for phase 2 of this project in October and hopes to add augmented reality to the signs. If approved, it will use our signage to take participants instantly back in time visually and even an ability to incorporate sound. For example, High Bridge Glens Park used to have an amusement park and pavilion. We hope that viewers can use their smartphone to see the park as it once was. This will add more excitement to the trail and keep it on trend with the use of state-of-the-art technology. We are asking today for the approval of adding 7 signs to make up the Downtown Congo Falls Historic Trail that would be installed in November, weather permitting, aimed to educate and activate residents and visitors. Thank you.
Thank you, Kaylee. I really appreciate that. You absolutely lived up to the expectation. Thank you.
Thank you.
First, I'd like to say that I think this is an incredibly exciting project, and I'm also very excited about the partnership with the Cuyahoga Falls Historical Society. So thank you, Mary Nichols Rhodes and Kaylee, for making that happen. I think we do have a very proud history here, and I think it's great that we'll be able to celebrate it. And the other thing, just out of curiosity, I know that these historical trails are things like this. There's a lot of people that will travel to see things like this. And I don't know, is this something that will it be on a list somewhere of other historical sites that people could look at and maybe know about this site?
Yes, I think with all of our resources that we have with Heritage Ohio and other local communities, that is something I'm currently working with many Main Street organizations to kind of cross promote as well. So I do think that this would be a great opportunity for that.
That's fantastic. And I agree that it's a great activity for families. It's outdoor, it's COVID safe. It's a great thing to be doing. So really appreciate all your work on this. I will, before I open it up for questions or other comments, I'll just remind council what we're voting on here is this ordinance is just to approve a license agreement, which will allow the downtown partnership to place the signs on city property. And if I'm wrong, Janet, please correct me, but I believe when I looked at the agreement, it's a 30-day notice if for any reason it would need to be canceled, but obviously I don't think that'll be happening, which is good. So really what we're just voting on is giving permission for these signs to be on city property, which I know I am very much in support of. The other thing that I know you mentioned, and I just want to make sure people caught this because I think it's important, I'm pretty excited about the fact that you're going to have a scanner on the signs where people can use their smartphones to scan them and then get a bunch of additional information, which I assume could be updated from time to time or adjusted. I mean, it's not it's something that if things change, I mean, history actually does change, if you need to look at it and change our messaging on it, I think that's really exciting. So
Correct.
Or go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, I don't know if anyone's familiar with the 17 Crimes wine bottles. If you put your phone actually on it, the label will move and communicate with you. So we can have additions of that and also have it changed either per year or whatever our contract is with our augmented reality partner. But also you can scan a QR code, hold your phone up, and then what shows on your phone is actually taking you back in time of what it looked like several years ago or decades ago, actually.
I think that's fantastic. And the other part that's really nice about it is, we put this in, it's a way that it can change. So as it attracts people to our downtown to support our businesses, it's not something it's like, oh, well, I've seen it. It's, oh, well, they've updated the augmented reality and it's a little bit different now. And it keeps bringing people back to our downtown, which I just think is spectacular. So I really appreciate you and all your thinking outside the box on this and your partnership with the Cuyahoga Falls Historical Society. And I think it's an exciting partnership here. With that, I'll open it up to any questions from the Public Affairs Committee.
I just want to comment, if I may. That augmented virtual reality concept is just going to expand the interest in that and I would imagine that once people have that experience and share it, it's just going to be very popular. So that's really cool.
Thank you. We had in mind the popularity of Pokemon Go. I don't know if many of you drove past like Highbridge Glens or just pretty much anywhere, any park downtown or in the city. People were out with their phones till like 2 in the morning and very interactive. And so there's a need and a demand for it. So hopefully we can add that to our signs. We got approved to the next stage of the grant that we applied for. So fingers crossed, I'm really hoping for the funds for that.
That's a great example of, you mentioned Pokemon Go. I recall when Pokemon Go was very popular, it was before we opened the street. So when people would ask me, as somebody who lived down here, should we open Front Street? I would always tell them that, in the years I've been down here, I can count on one hand how many people I saw using the pedestrian wall when it wasn't a festival. But I would always have to put the caveat, except during Pokemon Go, because it was packed in Pokemon Go. There are all kinds of people walking around. But no, I agree. I think it'll be a very popular thing, and it's going to be, really great to get people down to see how great our city is. I've always said that Highbridge Glens and those views of the waterfall and the lights and just how gorgeous that is just a real gem. And it's great to, I know one of the signs will be down in that area, and I think it'd be great to just bring more people to the area. So are there any other comments or questions from anyone on council? Councilwoman Nichols-Rhodes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I wanted to thank you, Kaylee, for your work on this. And I wanted to comment too that this is one of those things when you say downtown partnership, how absolutely true that is. Between the CD department, Triad has offered a lot of in-kind work. There are others who have contributed to this, including the Historical Society. So this really is a group project, and it really is just the perfect kind of legacy to leave from all the people who are part of it. I just really am very excited about it, and I thank everybody for their work on it. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. And then, Councilman Miller.
Kaylee, will all of these locations have access to the free downtown Wi-Fi?
That's a great question. If I'm still learning exactly where those points are. From what I know, it's mainly in the pavilion amphitheater area. So there are some that are outside that footprint. So I don't, that's a great question. I can do some more research and come up with, I can send it to Diana and kind of research more on that. But I know some of it will, yes.
Okay, great. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Any other comments? Oh, Councilman Corbach. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Thanks. I just wanted to say it's nice to meet you, Kaylee. Congratulations on your position. 60 people, that's impressive. And you sounded great tonight, and I look forward to, I don't use the augmented reality, but I look forward to you inviting council and showing us how to use it, hopefully when we gain those funds. But it's great stuff. It was exciting to hear your presentation, and look forward to seeing what happens with all of this. Thanks,
Thank you
Mr. Chair.
so much.
Sure.
Thank you, Councilman Gorbach. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I know you were kind of involved in this already, but if anyone has not been under the Portage Trail Bridge at night, there is now lights and music, and it's interactive, so the lights move to the music. There's 3 chosen songs that we had picked, and then defaults the radio station for the rest of the hour. And it runs from dusk till 11 p.m. There's a light show under the bridge. So if you have not seen it, go check it out. Riverfront Parkway underneath Portage Trail. It's really a nice accent to that area. It's been a long time in the works. These were ordered probably a year ago, and it took that long to get them installed. So it was pre-COVID, but they're installed post-COVID. So just check it out if you haven't seen it. One more thing that you may not know, this just went out today, but we have a program that's going to be going on downtown, and the parking meters are going to be free from Black Friday till January 1st. And the reason for that is they are going to be adopted and decorated. So it's going to be a walking tour of the decorated parking meters, and the businesses will be able to adopt a meter. They will pay to enter and sponsor that. That will cover the free parking for that period of time. There's going to be free 2-hour parking Black Friday to January 1st. But even more important is the meters are going to be decorated by the businesses, which will be a whole nother reason to come down and walk the 2 blocks in the downtown. So look for that to happen soon. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mayor. That's great information. Are there any other comments?
Mr. Stamps has his hand up.
I'm sorry, Mrs. Ciatola?
It looks like Mr. Stamps has his hand
Oh,
up.
I'm sorry, Mr. Stamps. Go ahead. I think you're muted, Frank. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Janet. I just wanted to say thank you for recognizing me. I just wanted to say congratulations, Kaylee. You did a nice job tonight, and good luck with your new position.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. You know, one thing is we just mentioned, and that just to follow up on our downtown businesses and the mayor mentioning, you know, the holiday seasons and the decorating of the parking meters. I will just remind people, I know with COVID, it's a really difficult time and a lot of our small businesses are struggling. You know, one thing that I know I've been doing that I would encourage others to do, if you're going to be buying gifts or things for the holidays, and if you don't really want to be out in stores, a lot of our downtown businesses have great websites. I've been ordering a lot of things and having them shipped from their local businesses here. So you always just make sure you consider all of our local businesses here, especially in our downtown and everywhere in the city, you know, during this difficult time with COVID. Are there any other questions, or did we receive any comments from the public? Dana, no? All right, I don't believe I see anyone else. I'll give it another moment in case I'm missing anyone. All right, hearing no more comments, I'll entertain a motion to bring the ordinance out with a favorable recommendation for a vote next week.
So moved.
Second.
First and a second, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. So we will consider that ordinance next week. If there's nothing else, I'll call the public affairs meeting to adjourn. Thanks, everybody. Have a good night.
Go vote.
Yeah.